Mic and do as I've been told. So, good morning. Good morning once again. So thank you very much for honoring our invitation to join us in what I think is a really important conversation. So I guess everyone sitting in this room is either a farmer, a business person supporting agriculture, or somebody working with the government in the Ministry or Department of Agriculture who is interested in all the big questions that we're concerned about, especially the productivity of our soils and food security, as well as nutrition, but also the economic well-being of farmers. So first off, how many of us are farmers? Okay, so everybody's a farmer. And so many of the things that I'm going to say are not new to you. Some of the problems that we face, especially in Western Kenya, including the Rift Valley, which we consider largely as part of the Western region of Kenya, is that our soils are the productivity has declined over so many years. So how many of you are over 40 years old or 35 and above? If you're 35 and above, raise your hands. How many of you have heard these stories that the land used to produce better many years ago, and now the productivity has declined? How many of you find that very familiar? How many of you are familiar with the story that our soils don't respond well to fertilizer? Ati mbolea inachoma nini? Inachoma? Inachoma mimea, ndio? So that's a very common story. And we also know that in the growing season, mvua ikipotea tu kidogo hivi mchanga na kauka, ndio? And how many of you here who are farmers know that there are parts of your land that do better than some other parts of the land? Unajua hapa nikipanda hii inapotea, hapa nikipanda hii inamea, si ndio? So these are the problems that define our agriculture. So what I've just described is what we call variable response to applied nutrients at the field level, where some portions of your farm do much better than others, okay? And there's a lot of work that we've done around this. You know, I've worked in Western Kenya nearly all my career. I started working with ICRA-ICRAF when we used to have an office in Maseno, where we had Carefree and Curry back those days, and in Kakamega, and in Kitale, and in Embu, and in Machakos. One of the things that we know very well is that farmers also manage their soils differently, isn't it? Kuna zile shamba iko karibu na nyumba, inakanga namna gani hiyo shamba iko karibu na nyumba? Kina mama wanafanyanga nini hapo kwa hiyo shamba? Yes. Okay. Na hapo kuweka mbolea inafanya namna gani? Sina ina respond mzuri. Na kule kumekauka, ukiweka mbolea kazi bure. Si ndio? So one of the major constraints with our soils is two things. One is low levels of organic carbon. Hiyo mbolea, jivu, takataka kutoka kwa nyumba, the compost and all of that. So that, in the absence of that, your soil organic carbon declines below a certain threshold where it now starts to behave in a different way. Okay, so the pH now starts to play up and down. And especially if you're applying fertilizer, the DAPs especially, then your pH starts to decline. Now when it declines, your phosphorus gets stuck in the soil. It's locked, it does not respond. So when you apply your nitrogen and your phosphorus, that is also compounded by some other chemical constraints like calcium, magnesium, and all of that, which also affect overall fertilizer response. Okay? So I'm just trying to give you the scientific basis of the things that you observe. Sasa mtu akisema mkulima amesema shamba irespond kwa mbolea, huyo mkulima si wazimu. Huyo mkulima is a good scientist and is observing what is happening in the field and is explaining what they're seeing in the best way they can. And the best way they can is looking at the crop. As scientists who come and look at the soil, the mkulima looks at the outcome. Sindio? Inatoa nini? That explains everything. So whether sisi tukikuja hapo na maneno ya pH, magnesium, potassium, nitrogen, hiyo haijalishi. What is important for the farmer is that the shamba is not producing, isn't it? When the farmer doesn't produce, the farmer has no money. When the shamba doesn't produce, the farmer does not have sufficient nutrition Okay? So another piece of statistic is that everybody in Western Kenya farms, but most of those who farm for a living are hungry about 100 days in the year. Their shambas don't produce enough to feed them. So for 100 days, kama ana pesa, akona njaa, si ndio? What comes out of the shamba can feed them for just about 200 days in the year. When they have a bit of mboga iko, maragwe iko, kuna banana, mandizi na kadhalika. Lakini hizi siku zingine kama mtoto hajatuma pesa kutoka Nairobi ama Kakamega ama Kisumu ama Eldoret, kuna shida, si ndio? So the problem is, how can it be that those who are called farmers, who are supposed to be producing food for all of us, are also hungry at the same time? So this is the biggest issue that we need to think about. And what we are here to do is to find means and ways within the existing resources we have in our region to rebuild soil organic carbon, to put carbon back in the soil. That's what we want to think about these next 3 days. Look at the resources that we have across all of the farm enterprises and everything else that we can bring back to the field, including waste from the markets, including crop residues from major commercial crops like sugarcane, for example. Also look at harvestable residues that come from prunings of trees that can be obtained through agroforestry interventions at the farm level. What we're trying to figure out is that how do we create a market model that enables the production of these resources in places where they can be produced in a cost-effective way, and then make them available to farmers at an affordable cost. So in this discussion, we're also going to be thinking about how do we create a market mechanism that can produce efficiently and distribute these organic resources, which are critical for fertilizer response, and then even make them part of the national subsidy. So that the subsidy is not just fertilizer, it is also organic resources. Lakini si kama zile za last year, where you find raw chicken poop and raw cow dung in organic resources. But you also now think about business opportunities. One of the things we want to also think about is how does this thing we're now calling the bioeconomy, which is mobilizing the potential of organic resources at the field level, and using those also to drive new businesses, micro, small, and medium enterprises, so that we can now create a bioeconomy that generates employment while creating usable products to support our food system. So if we rebuild organic carbon, we will then change all these problems that we're talking about. The acidity will now be stable. It will stop flying around. Nutrient retention that is required when you apply fertilizer will be possible. We talked about the soil drying soon after the rains. Once you rebuild organic carbon, you change water retention and water holding capacity. That means that even in short periods of drought, like 2 weeks, your farm is not drying and killing your crops. So good farmers know that. Kuna wakulima wakiweka mbolea kidogo tu, mahindi inafika kwa roof, si ndio? Na mwingine anaweka the same amount the next shamba na shamba yake inakufa. Sasa unasema wewe ulienda kwa mganga. Ndio shamba yako inafanya mzuri. Atiweka mbolea kidogo tu, hapana, ukichimba hiyo mchanga utapata it has very good carbon. Unaona hata wadudu wako hapo wako na afya, lakini kwako wadudu hata pia hawana afya because there's nothing to eat. So what we are trying to think about is that how do we create a commonwealth for organic resources among these 3 counties that are neighbors? Vihiga neighbors Kisumu. Kisumu neighbors Nandi. Nandi neighbors Vihiga. Sindio? These counties all have common borders. Kama unajua geography ya hizi counties zote. That's where we have picked them. And these counties are all different in terms of their agricultural potential. If you're looking for the large farms with large organic resources that come out of maize stover and maize waste, enda Nandi, sindio? If you're looking for big livestock operations that can produce tons of manure, go to Nandi. If you're looking for large sugarcane production that produces bagasse that can be converted to biochar, that can be used to amend our soils, angalia Kisumu, and angalia parts of Vihiga as well. So what we are suggesting is that there's a lot of organic resources among these 3 counties. What we need to create is an enabling policy environment, bring in the best research, to start driving the process that enables reinvestment in making these materials available and creating a culture of exchange and commerce so that we can all revitalize our soils. If we don't fix the carbon, there's nowhere African soils are going. To finish, these fertilizers, the DAP, the NPK, the CAN, were designed for Muzungu farms. This is another problem. Those Muzungu farms never have a problem with carbon. They're the youngest soils in the world, okay? They don't suffer from secondary acidification from use of these resources. In fact, now what the problem they have is too much nitrogen. The problem we have here is negative levels of nitrogen and very, very low carbon. The Muzungu soils don't have these problems. So now what they're trying to do is to reduce nitrogen application because of what nitrogen does to the environment with methane and volatilization that then causes other problems like eutrophication and kills the aquatic life. So they have a very different set of problems. So for us now, for these resources to work for us, we have to lay the foundation that enables these resources to then respond. That's why when I asked the first question, how many of you are familiar with the story that these farms used to produce much better before, but now they're producing less? Because back then, they were recently cultivated, they were following them, they were soils that were under natural vegetation, so they had very high levels of carbon, and they had very good pH, moderately neutral to alkaline. Now they're acidic, so they don't respond well. So we now need to reset our soils. So that's why this conversation is so intricately connected to all of the discussions you can ever have on food security in Western Kenya. If we don't fix this, my brothers and sisters, we will always be hungry. We will not solve this problem. We will be fed by Ugandans and we will be fed by Tanzanians. Uganda, our neighbor here, receives an average rainfall in millimeters of 1,200 per year. Kenya is 600. The organic carbon numbers are some of the highest in the region because there everything grows. So that's the difference. That's why Uganda uses 4.5 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare per year. They produce almost 100% more maize than we do at a much higher fertilizer application, which is about 70% by FAO numbers. So look at that difference. It is because of a natural endowment, and that natural endowment is built from carbon in the soil and then good moisture. Because has anybody seen a plant with a mouth that drinks water? Plants don't drink water, isn't it? They absorb the moisture from the soil. So if the water does not get into the soil and stay there, it is not accessible to the plant. Mvua ikinyesha inaenda hivyo. Si ndio? So you need to create a basis to store and retain that moisture in the soil for when the plant needs it. So that means that we have to do a lot of things on soil and water conservation to avoid erosion, but also to increase retention by raising the carbon numbers. So I've spent a lot of time to try and explain this so that you understand that this is perhaps the most important discussion you're going to have this year. How to rebuild organic resources in our fields and how to make money while we're doing that, and how to create a commonwealth of bioeconomy in Vihiga, in Nandi, and in Kisumu, and get our county governors to rally behind these things and create these resources that can then also create jobs for young people. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very, very serious discussion. There's nothing more important than a society that can feed itself. And there's nothing more shameful and immorally outrageous as a society that is hungry.
That was insightful, eh? Very, eh? Huh? Have we learned something there? So the next point that I have for you is, please keep a journal. Today's agenda is on your tables. Has everybody received an agenda? Yeah. Please just go through it on your tables. Look at what we have prepared there for you. Basically, most of the morning is opening and, just listening to some of the remarks, and then we'll go into an activity. Then in the afternoon, again, another activity. Then there's a cocktail of this. I think Prof has made it very clear already. So I'm not going to go through.
It turns yellow. it turns yellow. So you get reasons. Kindly do not feel at home, but feel like part of a team that is ready to learn on matters enhancing our organic carbon in our soils for improved productivity and livelihoods. Some. This one has too much of this nutrient, which is not good for human consumption. So that is why now we are linking with the market. What does the market require? The market requires quality and healthy feed. So we cannot over-fertilize. We are saying we need to know the quantity of the filter matter that we can add to the soil. That's just one example. I've been to a rice factory and I've seen the husk used. That's another resource. Another resource. And burn it. It is not good for the farm. It will encourage weeds. Really? That is Prof is talking about improving soil organic matter. It is required. And it is us to share with them and tell them, you are wasting a resource. So allow it. You can use it for mulching. Another resource I've been looking at are the food scraps. Let me mention them very fast, then I say what I wanted to say. Wood chips, crushed eggshells, shredded pepper and cardboard, straws, wood ashes, apple cores. Where we will visit, the farm visit where we'll go to, that old man surprises me every other time. A lot of invention, and he carbonizes a lot of products to get voucher. He carbonizes a lot of products to get voucher, and at the end of the day, he's selling fertilizer. We'll see it. He's selling fertilizer. That old man, I think he's 82 years now. 82 years, and he's really into invention. Now
One might wonder, what are the engineers doing here? I want to indicate that from the onset, I'm a character that embraces nearly every sphere of all the professions that we have. Some I read privately, and some I was trained professionally. I'm in love with medicine, anything bio. And bio means what? Life. And I'm also in love with anything technology, including industrial and heavy industrial engineering. These are things that are music to my ears. And when I talk about agriculture, again, that is a sphere that I feel like that is where I belong. So that is my love with regard to what we do in this life given. I'm here on behalf of the county executive committee member, Honorable Kenneth Onyango, the CEC member, agriculture, irrigation, livestock, veterinary, fisheries, and blue economy. So it is that long. But all these are relevant to us, and these are the roles that we play, and we play them more critically. I want to take the few minutes so that we ventilate on the subject matter that brought it here. And I want to start by giving some analogy. That when we are here to talk about farming, we are here to talk about the soil. We are basically talking about the farmer. And a lot of us may not realize that the farmer is the most important person in this world entirely. Why am I saying so? A lot of us may interact with a doctor once or twice a year. And some may even interact with a doctor once after 5 years. We may need lawyers only occasionally when we have issues, legal matters. We may need engineers only when we are putting some infrastructure or doing some designs. But apparently we need farmers daily. When you wake up in the morning, you interact with the produce, some product from the farmer. At around 10 o'clock or so, you need that farm again. At lunch hour, you need the farmer. And the lucky ones may also need the farm again at around 4. And then before you go to bed, you need a farmer. So is that not somebody that is so critical? How many of us, I would say the last 24 hours, have not interacted with anything from the farm? Anybody here? None. How many saw doctors in the last 24 hours? Nearly nobody. But all of us interacted with the farmer, I would say in the last 6 hours. Each of us must have interacted with some produce from the farmer. That makes a farmer a key pillar to anything that we do. And what does the farmer rely on to do all this that we value so much? It is the soil. Very limited amount of produce are done in laboratories, if any. They are the only research on what is it that we need to do in the soil so that the produce can do better. But in terms of mass production, the soil is critical. And this is what the farmer relies on. So in a sense, it means that we must do what it takes to protect and conserve that soil. And that's the reason why we are here. I've worked in the sugar industry, and I know the amount of biomass that go to waste that could otherwise be exploited and be turned into organic fertilizer for effective utilization at the farms, and not only in the sugar industry, but elsewhere. You go to the cane fields, harvesting is done every other day, but immediately they are fired because the farmer is really not keen on how to handle, or as we are not prepared on how to use that biomass to convert it to something useful. The director talked about filter press mud. Other than that, we have what we call boiler ash. Boiler ash, basically you look at it, it is lime-like. And we've used it over time for soil conditioning. Then there is the bagasse. Earlier on, those who started seeing what was happening in the sugar industry earlier on, they were using firewood to power the bagasse, to fire the boilers. But today, we realized there was a problem, and that was accelerating deforestation. And technology changed. And today they are using bagasse to fire the boilers for cogeneration. All sugar industries today, bagasse is critical for their functioning, because the moment the factory goes up, the national grid, that is KPLC, is switched off. How many are aware of that? When the sugar industry is running, when the factory starts milling, the Kenya power is switched off. It is no longer required. They only use it for startup and only during maintenance. So it's a critical component there. But the surplus, in terms of factory bagasse requirements and the bagasse percent cane, it is higher than what the factory requires. The amount of bagasse that you produce from 1 ton of cane is more than what the factory requires to process that 1 ton of cane. And therefore, they end up with a surplus. It is that surplus that we need to make use of. I'm glad Kibos is already doing it, and other factories should follow suit in terms of value addition, but more so something that goes back to the soil. Good. When we look at what is affecting us today, you'll realize it's largely as a result of human activity. That is what has destroyed our soils. You go to a virgin bush and you slash it off. We've done it before. You plant without using any fertilizer, and the harvest is bumper. You get a bumper harvest. How many know what we call Titonia and Lantana camara, Datura stramonium? Where do these things grow? In the wild. And when you go and slash there and plant, do you need any fertilizer? We need to ask ourselves, what is it that's happening? We have exhausted our soils and we've made them, we are basically killing the soil. And our crops require a live soil for maximum or optimal productivity. And that is something that we need to critically think over. Come with strategies that would help us mitigate and correct some of these anomalies that are attributed to basically our actions as human beings. Agroecology is at the center of it. They are experts in that field. We've seen what they are capable of doing, and it is only critical for us as counties to adopt it going forward. I want to say that we must do what it takes to guard the media that we are using. And the majority of farmers, I would say nearly all, relies heavily on the soil. And if we are relying on the farmer, we are basically now also heavily relying on the products from the farm. If we do the contrary, we stand to lose. And therefore, food and nutritional security will just be a wild goose chase. We'll be chasing our tails without attaining any reasonable results. With those very few remarks, I beg to ask all of us to effectively engage in the next 2 or 3 days. At the end of the exercise, we hope that we'll come up with something that will help us not only address the issues and the concerns that we have, but also be able to adapt and come up with the measures that will help us mitigate the element in the house that is the climate change. This is real. Thank you.
And it has culminated into scaling out to these other 3 counties. We appreciate you very much. I'm here on behalf of the CEC Agriculture and Cooperative Development, Dr. Kiplimo Arap Lagat, CEC member for Nandi County, who has also been a long time chair of the CEC caucus in Kenya. In Nandi County, I want to say that we have a farming systems approach that prioritizes practices that are prioritizing sustainable practices that focus on diverse crop systems, rotations, integrated pest management, and use of organic manure for cereals. We also in tea, coffee, and avocado, and also dairy production. Those are the value chains which are also promoted by the county government of Nandi. These practices are geared to maintaining ecological balance and support livelihoods for farmers within the rich Nandi County, which is also high potential region. The key aspects that are promoted under these ecological approaches are crop diversity, we have crop rotations, cereals, legumes, and also horticultural production county, where we have improved systems of pasture production, AI. We also promote animal health for the purposes of increasing milk production. Nandi County, for those specific targets for export market. We are also doing conservation agriculture with practices. Farmers are doing zero tillage and cover cropping that conserve soil moisture and reduce erosion. Also, when you move around the tea estates, you can, as you move around, for those who have moved in the tea estates, you can see along the footpaths, they have also planted some other crops to along the lines to conserve the soil and also prevent erosion. In Nandi County, we also endeavor to engage with the community. Extension services educate farmers about agroecological practices and knowledge sharing through farmer field schools approach. Also, farmers who are doing dairy farming are also encouraged to use biomass, which is a clean source of energy. And the waste can be plowed back into the farm. You know, these farming systems are integrated. When you do dairy, you get manure from the dairy. It goes into other cropping. So the integrated system approach also can maximize on the utilization of resources in the farm. We have had some challenges with the climate change adaptation, and they are also being addressed through introduction of drought-tolerant crop varieties and also some other orphan crops to boost food production. In agriculture, we should be focusing on the big picture. What is the big picture or the bottom line in agriculture? We are looking at food security and also commercialization of those value chains. Food at the table and also money in the pocket. Food security is a serious issue in this country, and if there is food insecurity, even the governments are overthrown for lack of food. You remember 2017, during election, there was a serious issue of unga, no what. There were demonstrations all over. So food insecurity, people, the governments are overthrown. Even the families are also, at family level, you can be overthrown as the head of the family if you cannot provide for your family. We still also, the county government of Nandi focuses on market access by improving on infrastructure and market linkages to ensure that farmers get their fair prices for these goods that they are producing through adopting agroecological practices. I also want to underscore the importance of the county government policy support to these programs geared to agroecological practices. The county government of Nandi promotes climate smart agriculture as it's enshrined in the county integrated development plan for the year 2023 to 2027, where climate smart issues come in handy, and also they are also working on agroecological policy, which is still in draft form. With those few remarks, thank you very much, and God bless you.
Made me not to be here by 9, but I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm happy that the chief officer, Dr. Betty, had taken charge and had done remarks. So in brief, I wish to thank the organizers of this event and the participating counties, that is Kisumu, Vihiga, and the workshop. Because as in Vihiga, if you ask the county director of agriculture and the CEO, you are really focusing on the matters of agroecology. I know the environmentalists and even the agriculturists or any production, we are focused on climate change and mitigation. But also, climate change is also affecting the soil health, because those microorganisms are able to kind of create a conducive environment within the soil for aeration and the growth of plants. Mostly are no longer there. We used to have earthworms, but I don't know if they exist. So this, even climate health and even soil health, it's also affecting other parameters in health. In health, we are been using a lot of inorganic elements, pesticides. And the way I see it, because I'm also a scientist, but a scientist in the field of malaria and genetics and the mosquito. We have had example mosquito resisting insecticides, isn't it? Where do mosquito breed? In habitats. Where are these habitats? They are in the soil, isn't it? So all this inorganic, we may think that the mosquito has become resistant because of exposure of impregnated nets with pyrethroids, but farmers are using pesticides to control. Where does this residues go to? In the soil, in the water. So sometimes we may be very clever, thinking that we are clever than a mosquito, but these mosquitoes, they get exposed too early, while at the breeding, at the larval stage. So they may just come out already, they have developed the resistant gene. So for this topic, I think in Vihiga, we have just recently, we passed, the cabinet approved the agroecology policy, and our focus, I know to our farmers, we may just, in a short while, we cannot just be able to say that we must transit immediately. But with the effort that we are going to put in place, and I'm aware of in the program of the policy, the implementation matrix, I think in the next 2-3 years, Vihiga will have done a lot of changes. And this county will be one of the counties that other counties will come to benchmark to see how are we doing better, how are we doing best to ensure that the policy that we have put in place, it is being implemented and the farmers can be happy. Because when the soil is very healthy, then the ecosystem, the environment that we live in, will also be happy, because the environment will be conducive for human, for animals, for crops, and any other living organisms that are on earth. I am aware also my colleagues from Nandi and Kisumu that send apology, they may not be able to attend, but they are fully represented in this meeting. I also wish to thank them for sending representatives, because some of us, when we have a meeting and you are not attending, sometimes you just think it was just you, but not the county. But when they send a representative, it means that their county is fully represented, and whatever knowledge that is going to be gained here, they are going to share with the other colleagues at their county, and they can be able to also to share with the chief officer or the wazir in that county on what had been done. And for mapping, when I was just taking tea, I had my chief officer and Anne here, Dr. Anne, talking about the figures. You know, with the figures is what makes us to make an informed decision, because we cannot just working like you just want to do this, but you don't have what informs you on how to do it best. So I think I'll stop there, but I welcome you to Vihiga. Enjoy Vihiga. I know tomorrow you have also a program of visiting a farmer, visit the farmer, and I was always whispering to my chief officer that we had started a plant for biofertilizer somewhere around Mbale. If they can have time, if you can talk to your colleague, Dr. Boyo, they can organize, and I think you can pass there and see what the biofertilizer plant. I know sometimes our farmers, because it's human waste, so some farmers or some of our farmers sometimes because of perception, but with the time they will have to change. You know, farmers, hata kwa Biblia nasema endelea tu kuhubiri, sivyo? Farmers, they need to be talked every time. Farmers can only change also their mind when they see those demonstrations. You have your demonstration there, farmers can be able to see. And when they see, they do what? They will go and practice. So, karibuni Vihiga.
Okay, morning everyone. Here I am, Mr. Harry Nyago from Sunwise Technologies. I'll take you through the organic resource business case, Sunwise, and also fish production, black soldier fly, and vegetable production. Okay. Sunwise is a Kenyan social enterprise focused on revolutionizing sanitation in low-income areas. I think we are a group of young people, and we came up with this idea through empowerments, and we found that in low-income areas, initially, you find that people are using pit latrines. And in Kisumu, generally, you will find that only 20% of population are using the flush toilets, and the 80% are using the pit latrines. But we can use the pit latrines in terms of waste management to be usable in the community. And again, you'll find that in this toilet also came in due to areas with a high level of water. You find that in the pit latrine cases, if you dig 5 feet, utakuwa umepata maji. So in those cases, people has challenges in that. So we came with this idea, and you'll find that it is an innovative whereby the Sunwise toilet addresses challenges of its called sludge, managed by integrating on improved pit latrines designed with black soldier fly technology to treat waste sustainably. This system not only safely processes human waste, but also recovers valuable resources such as manure. Sunwise uses urine diverting dry toilets design. The waste is biologically produced, whereby BSF larva. The BSF larva accelerates decomposition and reduce pathogens, transformation waste into useful products. We collaborate with institutions like Kiwasco, only to ensure that both community needs and regulatory frameworks are efficiently addressed. This black soldier fly, it is an insect recognized for its ecological and economic benefit, particularly in waste management and sustainable agriculture. You'll find that why the Sunwise toilets. This approach to sanitation not only aims to mitigate public health risk, but also offers an economically valuable model that can be scaled to improve irrigation conditions. Like you'll find that in the components of the Sunnywash toilets, it has many components like the superstructure, the toilet cabin, ventilations, but I will stick to the two components that makes it unique. We have the composition of the biodigestion unit. The biodigestion unit, it processes human waste into compost organic fertilizer. And it also converts the biodigester that converts the waste into biogas for energy use. And you'll find that in the collection treatment, the sludge tank hold solid waste for decomposition. And we have got the filtration system. The filtration system separates liquid waste for further treatment. And in this waste, we use it for many occasions. Like you'll find that this waste, we can also use it for vegetables. And the black soldier fly, where my colleague will talk about, you'll find that in the black soldier fly, it has proteins that can be used for the fish farming, and also the residues that like the fish waters that are done can be used for vegetables manufacture, whereby it is full of nitrogen, potassium, rather than going for the inorganic component. But you'll find that it is a business that whereby it is there and it circulates within, so that we used the waste you have for benefit of doing our normal business like farming and other things. So in the Sunnywash toilets, we also introduced like buying back method, whereby it helps in the climate change, whereby if one is supposed to pay like 500 shillings, then we have a buy bank center of the plastics. So you have it, you can easily collect the plastics to us. Then the amount that's supposed to be, you're supposed to pay, then we deduct from that amount. It's like you can go the whole month without paying anything, but you enjoy the services. You can go the whole month without paying anything, but you enjoy the services. At the same time, you are helping us in environment conservation.
My name is Deacon David Jojo Diambo from Esau Integrated Fish Farmers, CBO. There's a theme that I usually use known as find a friend, get a friend. Congratulations, Mr. Lele, and Young Tax CBO and Sunnywash, whereby they reached us and saw our effort upon working with something known as waste. As a question that I can pass to you, what is waste? Waste is a mindset. Waste is a mindset. As I was listening to Professor Alex, Betty, and Walter, I understand that waste is just a mindset. Because if we go back to the soil components, we find that the waste that we think is a waste is a living thing. That's encouraging the vermiculture, encouraging maggot farming, that's the black soldier fly, whereby we may get the resources and work upon them and to find both the crude protein in our animal feeds, vitamins, and amino acids. As per the World Health Organization, we have the competition between animal to human being omega-3 deficit, whereby a child is supposed to be born with the capacity of 30% CP of the brain component. That is omega-3. You usually see people advertising Blue Band, some advertising at the age of that, so let's say at the year 1997, there this number of Snowcoft that was usually advertised in the televisions. And where did we go wrong? The first place where we went wrong is to reduce the capacity of omega-3 to women who are bearing children, whereby the child inside the stomach is not born with the capacity of brain capacity of omega-3 of 30%. Most of our children are being born below 20% omega-3. That's where we went wrong. So by this, there's the introduction of the rearing or producing maggots from the black soldier fly. Why it just take a process of 47 days, there's a life cycle, whereby one female of a BSF, the fly, produced to a tune of 700 to 1,000 eggs. Only one, under a million. And the XY of a black soldier fly eggs are 50-50. If it produces 700, we have 350 male and 350 female of that life cycle. So where do we get this waste? As per Kisumu County, I think director has that analysis, only on a Sunday at Kibuye Market, they usually collect 70,000 metric ton of organic waste. Where do they take them? Maybe they take them to Kibos, to dump, whereby they are producing millions of methane to the environment. Are we killing our community? We are making the cities clean, but creating another problem. That's why we should embrace the black soldier fly farming, whereby it's going to break all organic waste to a product that will cure the competition of omega-3 between the animal and the human being. As for example, we have a big problem in our Lake Victoria that is known as fish capture or lake capture, whereby we have the competition of the shrimps and the daga. As per the records of the World Health Organization, it needs that a human being should consume omega-3 3 times a day. Where will we find it when we have the competition? We have to produce a lot of larvae, whereby the larvae will be, the maggots will be processed into feeds for our animal. That's where we'll have nitrogen from from chicken waste, where we'll have a lot of fish for our women and babies, whereby we will build our economy high by empowering most CBOs, self-help groups, KK groups, and even some micro companies among our community. Now we have killed 10 birds with one stone. Ama nimedanganya. So when we are doing fish farming, most of people say that the fish around our markets are China. Who told you? They are not China. They are not China. They are they're being kept into the cages and then to the market. As per bit knowledge that I have through fish farming, I know we take the blue Mozambica and the Nile Nilotica to produce a breed that can be sold to the market and have returns. Whereby as me in Esau, we produce fish feed without an additive, whereby we still have a problem of this something known as KEBS. That's the thing that have already brought down the production of our community. By what? We don't have the omega-3 in our mind. Whereby as we see doing soya farming, whereby only soya have 55% of CP. If you take it to the lab, you find it that. But due to we have no rich soils, you'll find the CP of the soya coming down even to 28%. KEBS must be there to see the quality of your feed. That's why we are improving cancer in our community by not doing it organically. By not doing it organically, we use additives from other countries to kill our community. As per ICRAF, the whole organization, if we come together, make our soils alive, I think we'll not need even doctors, because the best doctors, as Walter, the best doctor is a farmer. The best doctor is a farmer, and the best doctor is you seated in this program to champion the beginning of making our soil live again by doing the right thing. We may ask each other, how can we have a best production? Know what you're doing. The best thing, you know what you're doing. That's why that the old young man is telling him that he knows what he's doing and he's eating healthy. So with the lavis, as per me, I know if we produce with lavis from the west, from Kibuye, we can have a CP of 32 with 40. When we defat it, the CP will go to up to 48 to 50, whereby we are not going to use the shrimp or omena to produce our animal feeds, but we'll just have the animalia protein from the lavis and always have the plantain protein from the soya. While we'll have the oil, plantain oil from sunflower, and then we have the animalia oil from the lavis. One thing doing two jobs. After that, what next? We'll have waste. Ya alpha toxin kwa waste ya factory, nikuje ni inject kwa kuku, alafu itoke kwa kuku irudi kwa mwili yangu, nitakuwa nimejiua. Ndio maana tukikaa hapa tukaweka udongo ikawa mzima tena, tutakuwa tumeshinda vita. And our economy itarudi. As last nikimaliza, in the Bible wanasema we are the 7th generation. Si ndio? 7th generation inamaanisha ni? The first generation was creating heaven and earth. That was the first generation. While the last generation ilikuwa sisi. Sisi sawa wenye tulikuwa tumekuja tufanye nini? Tulinde yote. Ukiharibu mmoja, mbona walianza na mchanga? Ukiharibu mchanga, umaribu. Na tukilinda hizi zote, tutakuwa na brain capacity of 30%. Asante.
Is a transdisciplinary system scientist at agroecology theme C4-ICRAF, and she'll take us through the learnings they had during the Makueni, Kiambu mapping of organic resources. Welcome, Dr. Anne.
Everyone. I've been very much inspired by the discussions and the talks we've had this morning. Who else has been inspired already? I think I've learned so much in a span of 2 hours, more than I've learned. Oh, yes, and that. Yes. I think I will. Dr. Mulianga had mentioned about numbers. It's good to have numbers. It makes everything be in perspective. So I'll briefly discuss about or share lessons that we've learned from a similar project that we undertook in Kiambu and Makueni counties last year. So the aim of the project was to map the diversity, the types and quantities and utilization patterns of organic resources that we have. We have in Kiambu and Makueni counties. And what we actually did, we went up to the ward level. We were able to capture the 60 wards in Kiambu County and also that wards in Makueni County. And we interviewed and talked to a lot of stakeholders. So we were actually able to come up with a comprehensive analysis of what is on the ground. And as I think every other speaker has mentioned this morning, there is a lot of diversity of organic resources that we have within our reach. As you can see, like this is an example of Kiambu County, where animal manure was the dominant organic resource. But also we found that, as you all know, these resources are held by people who are coming in terms of the different stakeholder categories. We have the small-scale farmers, we have the small-scale industries, we have the large-scale and all that. So even as we go towards the discussions that we'll be having on what is good to look at, looking at the different stakeholder categories and how everything can be customized to suit that. So out of all these resources, we were able to categorize them into 8 categories. So, of course, it was varying across the counties. So we have animal manure that includes cow dung, slurry, and other types. Then we have, as Professor Alex had mentioned in the morning, we have a lot of agroforestry, one distinct category. Then we had a very big category on agroindustrial, one distinct category. Then we had a very big category on agroindustrial byproducts. For instance, from the coffee pulp, we had mangoes, we had pineapple waste and all that. That was another category. Then we had the rural household waste that most people refer to as compost. Then we had another category now of the municipal waste that was being collected through the municipal platform. And then we also had a critical category on other animal waste, such as bones from and rabbit urine. So what was interesting is that there were variations in the utilization patterns of the different resources. For instance, if I can give an example of industrial waste from peels, from like mangoes and the like, you find that it was used not only for soil fertility, but also as bioenergy, as livestock feed, and also as mulching. And same case with every other resource. And what does this tell us? It tells us that we have different needs and different demands for the different resources. So as we go into our discussions later on, it's good to look into which resources are required or are in demand for which category of people. Then numbers always speak louder than any other, I think. So we were able to put into perspective in terms of how much resources are we getting from our counties. For instance, so we were even able to capture an example in Kiambu County. For the people who are producing animal manure, they were producing an average of, so from cows, an average of 187 kilograms. So we were able to quantify that. And then the same across all other organic resources. And the same for Makueni, we did the same. So one of the exercises that will help us to be able even to come up with interventions that are customized is to know also how much of the resources are coming out in terms of quantities are coming out from the different stakeholder categories and all that. Then in addition, this is where we also, as Professor Alex mentioned, we are not only supposed to manage our resources, organic resources for this COVID, but we are supposed to also be able to get some income from it. So, for instance, in Kiambu County, there is a farmer who is making, so on average, farmers or people who are involved in crop residues were making an average of 87,000 Kenya shillings per planting season. But at the same time, there is a farmer who is making up to 1 million Kenya shillings from sale of crop residues in a planting season. And the same as for animal manure, you can see there's a farmer already making 520,000 500,000 Kenya shillings from the sale of this. So our question will be, how can we be able to ensure that we are able to also commercialize the existing resources so that people are also able to benefit from them. Then what was also interesting is that people are usually not self-sufficient. So there's always that outsourcing of organic resources that they don't have. For instance, you find that in, for instance, in Makueni counties, a significant percentage of people who are outsourcing agroforestry products and animal manure. So it means even as we go into the discussions looking at what resources does each of the counties have and what can be outsourced from the other counties, it will be quite interesting to see that. Then these resources played complementary roles in the system. For instance, you find that for the case of Kiambu, maize was being used not only for soil fertility, but mulching and livestock feed and all that. So we need to look at how can we be able to maximize on the synergies between the various resources that are coming out of our counties. And then there was also, but also on the flip side, there is also the aspect of competing needs for the resources, especially because of scarcity and all that. For instance, if I can give an example of Makueni County, you find that animal manure alone was being used not only for biofertilizer, but also for biogas. It was used for brick making. It was being used as a biopesticide. It was used for all these other, part of it was sold and all that. And also for Kiambu County, you find that the compost, all the waste from the kitchen was being used. There was competing needs between composting it, but also a majority of it was being used as animal feed. So it is important also to start looking at how can we be able to ensure that we increase the diversity of resources so that we are able to balance off these competing needs. But at the same time, we all know that resources are seasonal. So it's important to increase diversity in order to ensure that at any one given time, we have a flow of resources that are serving our needs. Then, as expected, there are always those systemic challenges, I would call them, that we encountered across the different organic resources. So these are actually not very new challenges as such, but it's good to just highlight the fact that for us to be able to optimize the use of organic resources, it's important we come together to be able to address some of these aspects. For instance, what was common was, for instance, lack of markets for some of the organic resources like animal manure and agro-industrial waste. Then there was lack of knowledge on how to process the organic resources further, but also how to be able to utilize the resources. There was also, for instance, an aspect of slow decomposition of waste, especially from crop residues and compost and agro-industrial waste. So we also have to look into, do we need, for instance, technology to be able to hasten the process of decomposition in order for us to be able to come up with a way that we can fully utilize the resources that we have. Another aspect was, I think, high production costs and seasonality also of the resources. So as we go along with the discussions, it will be interesting to focus on a few aspects as I conclude. The first one is how diverse and valuable are our resources, and how can we design customized interventions that are able to address, to help us to be able to optimize their production and use. Then how can we promote resource diversity in order to be able to balance off the competing needs, but also optimize on their synergies, not only within the, for instance, the farming systems, but also across the different counties that we are represented. And then how can we be able to commercialize or benefit more from organic resources? And this will help in terms of acting as an incentive for people to be able to manage their resources properly. And then I think the highlight of this workshop will be how can we be able to build partnerships and collaborations in order to be able to unlock organic resource potential and be able to maximize the use of organic resources across the 3 counties. So thank you for your time.
Wow. Let's give a hand.
Thank you, Pam. I think today we've started on a very good footing, and we've seen we've got a lot of ideas, starting from Prof, from Dr. Mulianga. The CEC has brought in new things we've not seen. But all in all, we are just talking of one thing. We are looking at the soil, we are looking at the production at the farm level, we are looking at the food on the table. So for me, as my work is, I'm a soil scientist, and I'm very happy when we talk about soil. Even when we talk about the food, we still talk about the soil. So I will just look at building on what Anna said, just trying to look at what are the organic resources. And our work is simple: to identify, quantify the spatial distribution of organic resources across the 3 counties. We want to know how much is available in each. Based on the lessons learned from Kiambu and Makueni, we want to delve into the 3 counties and see how much we have, what we have, and when we look at the 3 counties, each has its own diverse organic resources. And what are the organic resources? Because we are talking about organic resources, we now need to differentiate the organic resources. We need to differentiate. We need to know what are the organic fertilizers. We need to know what are the bio inputs. But at the end of it all, we are dealing with individual part of the organic resources. Everything built to organic resources. So organic resources, when we are looking at in relation of the soil health, we are looking at, it refers to derived natural materials from living organisms, that is from plants, from animals, and from the microorganisms that will help in encouraging or enhancing soil fertility and improving the crop's growth. As Prof talked about the carbon, the most important aspect within the soil is the carbon. And when we have the carbon, we have the organisms. When we have the organisms, we have a lot of decomposition. That decomposition will help in enhancing in building the soil structure, in enhancing or building the soil bulk density. It will be able to absorb a lot of water. It will also be able to store a lot of nutrients, and that is when the plants now comes in. No wonder what Dr. Mulianga talked about, that lady, is putting in a lot of that and building the soil structure. And once you build the soil structure, that is the sponge which pulls all the nutrients together. They are rich in organic matter, nutrients, and microbes. That is the organic resources. They are raw materials that serve as a basis for the creation of organic fertilizers or bio inputs. Then we have some of the examples which have been mentioned, and just putting in some few of them. We have the plant residues, and within the plant residues, you can see at this particular one, we have a lot of the termites, you could have the earthworms, you could have anything which are going to break down. We have the microorganisms we cannot see. They are broken down. So when you put it, you use it as mulching material, you put it in the soil, it is decomposed, and when it is decomposed, it releases the nutrients, but at the same time is going to improve the soil structure. And we want to build the soil structure. Why we are having a problem with what we call the non-responsive soil is because the organic component is very low in the soil. And when organic component is low in the soil, there is no sponge to absorb that nutrient. So you can find somebody applying a lot of fertilizer, and it is not going to work. It is very common, especially when you cross a lot along the Rift Valley. The soil is acidic, the carbon is very low. You apply fertilizer, you can apply, previously it used to be, people used not to apply fertilizer, then you added 1 bag, now it is 2 bags. So it is going to 3-4 bags per hectare. So what does that mean? The soil is not responsive. And when the soil is not responsive, what should we go? Let's go back to the roots. Let's go back to the organics. And once we use the organics, we have got the plant residues, we can get manure like from the pigs, from the poultry. And incidentally, we are now going even to using the human manure. It is now being used in some places, but the myth cannot still allow. But that is the direction. If you go, when you look at, we were looking at Kisumu, the what you call the domestic waste is so much, and that could still be converted to fertilizer. But in other countries, they are doing like that. But when we add all, what we have the cow manure, pig manure, we have the poultry waste, we have the fish waste, we can do composting, and all this help us to develop the soil. So we have the manure, animal manure, we have the compost, we have got the crop residues, we have green manure. And when we looked at the Kiambu Makueni, we could see a lot of the crop residues yielding a lot of money. That a lot of money means it is generating income. These products will go to feed animals, and it is taken back to the soil. So it is a bioeconomy which we need to develop in this particular point. So we also have green manures. The green manures, people plant legumes like beans, and then you plow it in. I will say why that is very important in the next 2 slides. So we have the organic fertilizer. Now, originally we talked about the organic resources. These are raw materials. Now we will delve into making these things, the organic fertilizers. They are derived from organic resources, particularly plant or animal matter, and are used to provide essential nutrients. The organic resources you partially process like into composting so that you have the right nutrients within from the compost. Then this can be used as organic fertilizer. They are processed or prepared in a way that they can directly be applied into the soil to improve soil fertility and improve and promote plant growth. They are rich in macronutrients and micronutrients as well as trace minerals. The importance of the organic fertilizers is that they release the nutrients slowly. And that is why when you apply manure or the compost in the soil, you see the crop continuing to grow because one, it develops the soil structure, it develops the soil, it helps in improving soil fertility, and you get continuous. It may not have the vast nutrients like the mineral fertilizer, but over time, as you build the soil, you increase, and the crop will always, the yield will be going up. While the mineral fertilizer, the yield starts from up and it will be going down. So we need to go into this. Then these are examples, the manure, the filter mud has been mentioned. Filter mud is very high in nutrients. Then we have this other one, the nitrogen-rich water from the fish pond. These are very important in that after the fish has utilized that water, you drain the water as you add more. That can now be used in the farm. And good enough, Sunwise Technologies are already using this for producing vegetables. But it can still be enhanced further. This can be used for charging the biochar, and then the biochar can be put into the soil and have a lot of nitrogen which is retained within the biochar. Then we have the bone meal. I believe where we will be going tomorrow, we will get the farmer told me now is produced the bone fertilizer, which we will see it. So the bones are very rich in phosphorus. So when they are crushed and applied, preheat and applied in the soil, it provides a lot of phosphorus. So these are very important. We may look at it that these are common, but this is what the farmer is using. And it is cheaper to produce this than when we look at the use of the fertilizer, which is destroying, damaging our soil. And where we've applied all this, you find the soil is intact. And the water which flows across that soil is clear. But the water which flows across where we have applied the mineral fertilizer is always brown. What does that tell us? the soil has been degraded when we use the fertilizer, the mineral. Then we have the bio-inputs. The bio-inputs, these are natural substances or organisms or extracts we use to improve the soil health, promote plant growth, and manage pests or diseases. They are generally more specific than organic fertilizers and include nutrients and microbial agents and enhance plant and health resistance. They are microbial, biochemically processed or derived from plants. They serve multiple functions in crop production, pest disease control, improving nutrient and enhancing fertility. So there we have examples, and this is what I believe we are now currently, people are delving into. The use of the avascular mycorrhiza. Avascular mycorrhiza is existing in the soil naturally, but they have to be enhanced so that they can be able to, the plants can be able to tap through it. Avascular mycorrhiza plays a critical role in getting phosphorus, which may not be available for the plants. So it is able to dissolve and provide phosphorus to the plant, which the plant will make food, and then in return, the avascular mycorrhiza is going to get the food. We have got the rhizobia, which is also in soil, but some may not be active. Like this is this was a very active one. You see, those are nodules. When you press on those nodules, you see it is producing some reddish substance. Then it means it is active. They tap the nitrogen from the air and help the plant and give it to the plant, and in return it will get food. But the plant is going to get a lot of nitrogen from that. Then we have the earthworms. There are people who are doing a lot of vermicompost. The vermicompost can be some people are using vermicompost. They get the liquid from that, and then it is used as biofertilizer or foliar fertilizer. But whatever is inside here is also very rich in nutrients, because you find the earthworm cast is very high in nitrogen, is very high in phosphorus, and that phosphorus is what helps in the root development for the plant. So when we utilize these organisms, then, thank you. When we utilize these organisms or develop the bio inputs, this can help us to improve our yields and our soil. So we have the biofertilizers, we have got the biopesticides. I know among us, some of the farmers are developing the biopesticides. People are extracting biopesticides from the neem trees. Others are using what you call the Mexican marigold. We want to get rid of, to chase pests from the farm, use Mexican marigold or any other. These are things which we have and we are using it. And we would also want you to provide that kind of feedback. Do we have this? Do you know that? We have got the biostimulants that can be used, like when you are planting root growth promoters. The farmers have them. It is within us. So we have the innovators who are the farmers. We have the people who are using it, the farmers. And then we have got the bio herbicides. And all this, when we utilize this bio aspect, it helps us. Someone talked about cancer increasing, and it's because we are using the pesticides. But when we go to the these biological ones, we don't have, it is actually more of neutral, very little effect on our bodies. So the contributions of organic resources to overall soil health, it enhances soil health fertility through increased sustained soil nutrient and availability. It enhances water and water holding capacity. Very important, when we have a lot of organic materials in the soil, you find that place as the water is retained for a longer period than in a soil without organic component. It contributes towards climate risk mitigation. It improves soil structure and also controls soil erosion, enhance beneficial biological activity, and then improve soil aeration. So these are the most important things that we want to look at it in the next session, trying to understand what we have within the 3 counties. Thank you.
Wow, awesome. Very passionate, eh?
Current uses, which ones are being fully exploited, which ones are not fully exploited. Now, you know, this question cuts across. Now, with regard to the marketplace, are they fully used? Most of it is just dumped. These people wanachukua kidogo what we can do
I'm writing in Shaka. Yes. Being full. So practices are currently being used.
Urine underutilized.
Until the doctors, David, Anne, and Betty, decided to smoke me out. My name is Timothy Nyakwamba Kajwang. I'm the Chief Officer for the Department of Trade, Tourism, Cooperatives, Industry, and Marketing, County Government of Kisumu. I know that she was worried, but I told her my protocol is easy. In any case, I realized that the speeches were very crowded. And if all of us were going to talk, then we would have spent more time than we may have wanted to do important things. When farmers produce, of course, I'm also a farmer. From where I come, we do fish. So we have put fish in the lake. Sio zile tunapata Mungu akishaweka. We have decided to put some in the lake. Yes. And a few other things. When farmers have produced, as we wait for you at the point of marketing and probably value addition through industrial engagements. And in cooperatives, we also try to arrange for resources. Your resources, we put you together so that you raise the resources in cooperative movements, and then you are able now to do many things. So that is where we converge. I know that in many counties, agriculture and cooperative have always gone together. Many counties think that agriculture and cooperative is one and the same thing. But in Kisumu, we have decided to put all the commercial engagements in one department. And so that is how we run it. Apart from Director Walter, we are also here with another director, Nancy. Nancy, simama tu wakuone. Yes, I know some of it. Nancy is the director in charge of gender and culture in Kisumu. And we also have Rosemary somewhere. Is she there? Rosemary is in charge of markets. Yeah? Yeah. Apart from the farmers, that is how the county government was also represented here. Of course, my colleague Walter had already passed to you the apologies of the CC Agriculture. He had actually confirmed that he would participate here. But in the counties, many things crop up, and you sometimes just change your schedule the last minute. So let's continue. The gains of this will be good for all of us, and I'm sure we are going to do what the young people tell us. After talking, we go and work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do we mean by ABC process? Asset-based management. What can bring money back to our community on the other aspect? So we saw the first organic resources that we have nearly to our doorstep from the sawdust companies, whereby we have the wood workshops where we have this sawdust being produced and being produced in large scale. We cannot quantify because we need technicians under that department expertise. So we never gave any percentage, but we know it's there. Current status is highly utilized because we are improving poultry farming, whereby we use the sawdust as a mat of our poultry farming. And then the current practices, I've talked about poultry, others use as the chips mwitu. Wanapanga kwa ile jiko lao, alafu wanafanya nini? Wanaacha. So it's like a fuel. So tukienda ingine, tunapata we have bagasse. Bagasse hizi ni residues kutoka kwa sugar cane. Na kwa hiyo bagasse tumepata available, tuko na sugar cane processing plants. Unaona? Hapo hivyo pia tutaweza ongezea ingine inaitwa nini? Filter mud na cane trash. Cane trash ni zile maganda zenye ukienda kwa factory unapata kama zimebaki nje kabla iingishwe kwa ndani ya kugeuzwa bagasse. Unaona? Hiyo kusagwa. Sasa zile nini waste ya miwa ikibebwa. Bagasse ni ile imeshasiagwa ikabaki kaoshwa, ikabaki zile chembi. Sivyo inaweza itwa bagasse. Am I right? If I'm wrong, unganiambia I'm wrong. That is to my understanding.
Yes.
So nikiangalia hizo peels za miwa, hizo inaitwa cane trash, zinaweza tumika kama manure, compost, inaweza chukuliwa. So tunazipata wapi? Kwa processing plant. They are largely used, they are highly utilized. Wanatumia, ulisikia kama profesa alikuwa anatuambia wanatumia kutengeneza nini? Wanatengeneza nayo moto ya kukimbisha the boilers. Alafu the ash pia zinatolewa, inaweza tumiwa kwa farm. Unaona, and the mud, filter mud, inaweza tumika kwa shamba. So it's highly utilized. Unaona, tunapata hizo wapi? Tunapata kwa tunatumia current practice in manufacturing pearls. Pearls ni kama hizi selling boards. Unaona, zinaweza tumika kutengeneza selling boards. Alafu tuko na fertilizer. Pia zinaweza tumika kama fertilizer. Alafu tuko na fuel, inasaidia zile boilers kufanya nini? Produce electricity. So it's highly utilized. Sasa tukikuja kwa rice husk. Rice husk tunapata kwa rice plantation. They are largely used because of the knowledge and education size yenye imeenda kwa rice plants. Mahali wanachukua hizo husk wanageuza kwa biochar na wanarudisha kwa shamba. So it's highly used. Alafu ndio biochar na mulching. Mulching inamaanisha zile zimebaki huwezi geuza biochar, unaweza tumia mulching kwa kupanda nao mboga ama kupanda nayo mimea zingine. So tuko na ingine hapa inaitwa organic market waste. Inapatikana mostly, organic market waste inapatikana kwa soko. Hiyo ni matunda zenye zilianguka, tomatoes, vegetables, mboga, nini, hizo takataka yote ya organic. So it's large. Volume yake ni mingi because nilishawaambia in Kisumu County in only one market day tunachukua 70,000 tons. Only one market day. Yenye inaenda kutubu. So tukikuja hapa not utilized because most wanaenda wanazidamu. Unaona? Practices inatendeka sana. They're dumping it. So tukikuja tuko na hiyo filter mud nishaongea juu yake. Sasa tulienda tukajua the types of organic resources. Tuko nazo types 3. Tuko na plant, tuko na animal na tuko na human. So tukikuja kwa animal waste tuko na poultry. Hii inamaanisha hii tukishaweka sawdust kwa kuku, ile itabaki, ile nye kuku imeendea imeweka dropping zake. Hizo tunaweza leta tufanye nao kitu inaitwa black soldier fly production. Unaona hiyo inapenda hiyo pieces za kuku. Unaona from the first stage. So tunatumia poultry, pale tunazipata ni homestead. Hapo pia tuko na livestock kama pig, ng'ombe. Pia tunapata wapi? Homestead. Aquaculture sasa pia zinafanywa in homestead whereby we have the earthen ponds, tuko na raised ponds. Unaona tuko na aquarium, ile pets ziko tunatumia hapa. So largely used. Unaona manufaa yake. Alafu highly utilized because tuko na hii kitu yenye inaitwa kitchen garden. Most people wako na hiyo kitchen garden yenye imebeba oasis garden, coney garden. Unaona hizo pia is highly utilized. So kwa waste hapo, kwa hiyo waste tunaweza pata vermiculture. There are some people wenye wamechukua opportunity ya kutengeneza vermi juice. Wanatumia the vermiworms to produce vermi juice. Wanatumia waste ya kuku wanaweka kwa vermiworms inatoa vermi juice. Simuliona wadudu wengine walikuwa wameweka kwa TV hapo red hivi. Hiyo minyo hiyo. Yeah. Hiyo ndio tunatumia hapo hiyo. Sasa inatoa vermi juice. Unaona? Tuko na aquaculture. Aquaculture tuko na waste types 3. Na hizi waste zinatumika sana. Ndio maana tumetumia large and highly utilized. Nani umaikula mgongo wazi? Mgongo wazi. Hiyo mifupa. It's a waste from a processing plant. Ndio. Alafu wanauzia fishmongers. Hapo ndio jina fishmonger ilitokea. Fishmongers wanatoa cake ya mbuta na wanatoa nini? Mifupa ya watu watafanya nini? Wanakunywa. Daktari anakuambia mifupa yako zimekuwa weak, enda kupate supu ya mifupa. Unaenda kutafuta gani? The cheapest is mgongo wazi. So kwa mgongo wazi is highly used. In Kisumu unapata kama watu wamechukua hiyo kama biashara. Ukienda Ubunga unapata kama ni biashara hapo. So it's highly used for aquaculture. So use of the fish offals ni mzuri in 1 medicinal, 2 hygiene. So unaona ni trash lakini tena imekuja kafanya nini? Kwa waste. Hiyo itatuzalisha kwa hii. the next question. So kukuja hapa tunapata we can produce BFS first from this. Bala kupeleka hii poultry manure ya poultry direct kwa shamba ama ya ng'ombe kama bado ni mbichi inachoma nini? Ulisikia wanasema inachoma mimea, si ndio? So you have to break it down. We use of the vermiculture na ya nguruwe unatumia BSF. Your black soldier fly. So to form the thrust and to remove the larvae. So the thrust ndio tunatumia kutengeneza nao nini? Fertilizer. Si shamba yake iko mzuri. Haya, tunakuja kwa supplement. Hii na siku nataka kuongelea sana, lakini nitaongelea yake. Supplement unapata medicine from the larvae, medicine from fish, medicine from spirulina. Spirulina
want to exploit, if you want to exhaust the list of byproducts of the sugar industry, molasses is one of them. And we said filter pressman is one of them. Boiler ash is also one of them. And then bagasse. Those are the major byproducts from the sugar industry. Basically, organic wastes,
Yes.
so to speak,
Yes.
including cane trash and tops that are left in the farm. Very large quantities.
Yes.
When we talk about molasses, that is a product or a byproduct of the sugar industry that can host a number of other value additions.
Yes.
I don't know how many of you are aware of agrochemical. Agrochemical is using molasses as a raw material. And they are making a host of products.
Yes.
Power alcohol, ethanol, yeast, methylated spirits, and all those things are coming from molasses. And that kind of venture employs a number of people. And a lot of these molasses, you realize, as we expand the number of, they increase the number of factories and this area under cane production. Today we are capable of producing enough sugar for ourselves and we are not importing. Where is this molasses going to? Because the factory of that kind is only agrochemical. Chances are that there's a lot of potential to invest in that line so that we can produce more of what agrochemical is doing.
Wonderful.
Okay?
Do you feel like he's answered you?
Yeah, he's answered me because molasses is one of the raw materials in the making of some like.
Yeah.
And it's also used in the dairy industry.
Okay.
As basically a supplement. Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
It is used to enrich dairy feeds. Yes. In fact, you can buy hay mixed with molasses, and your cows will really enjoy it.
Okay.
Vihiga County. In the introduction in the morning, Waziri noted that we are second in terms of population density.
Thanks for that reminder. So now I'm getting it. It's all being consumed.
Yes. And then 84% of our population is directly dependent on agriculture. We have a resource, a human capital resource that is very much available here in Vihiga, and in terms of value addition, that's where Vihiga now can be able to capitalize in this whole process.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me
value
more
addition and
about value
distribution.
addition.
Yes. So Kisumu have talked about molasses. They've talked about bagasse.
Yes.
These items needs to be distributed to farmers, right? We have farmer producer organizations within here Vihiga County, which are being empowered to handle such businesses. Whenever these products maybe are coming from Kisumu County to come and enrich the soil here in Vihiga County, they'll need a distribution network, which can be tapped in by our youth, if they are youth, women, and all the farmers generally, if they are well empowered to tackle that. So the human resource is plenty here in Vihiga County and can be utilized in this case.
Okay, so what you're saying, what you have in
manpower.
Is manpower. The human resource is there. So you just need that linkage.
That need, yes, that linkage, and there is also that need. Most of our soils here are depleted.
Yeah.
So there is need to have them improved, and we also have that human manpower.
You have the manpower. Did you all hear that? Very important. They have the manpower. So let's just create a link. I don't know, between the counties. I don't know how possible that is. Would you like to comment on that?
Bottom line. You go to countries like Brazil, here in Kenya and other African countries, you are still focusing on sugar as the main product. In countries like Brazil, sugar is the byproduct. Therefore, their research is tending towards varieties that can give them more molasses and fiber, so that they use bagasse as a fiber for the paper industry and use molasses for other products, like what we mentioned that chemical is doing. And these are products that are highly priced, much more than sugar. If you quantify their cost, their value per ton. That is where we need to go.
Yes.
Same to rice, bioethanol production. In Uganda, what is going across the border is not used for table rice. They are using it for bioethanol production and chicken and other feeds. And then they ship it back to Kenya.
Yes.
And we are also exporting our employment. Because the cottage industries that are one of the byproducts.
The Vihiga
Yes, in Uganda.
are going there.
I'm not saying that. Those are what we need to do.
All right. Thank you very much.
Promoting that value chain, and the county is massively giving the signal to more farmers. And,
Just hang on.
I'm saying.
No, wait. We are having some conversation here with engineer.
Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying in Nandi, we are doing massive support to farmers on the coffee value chain.
Yeah.
And we're promoting that value chain so much. And we are projecting that in the next 3-4 years, we'll be producing 3 times what we're producing now. And currently we're having around 3 industries and around 35 cottage industries. Those are the small coffee producers. So with the coffee us, we're going to have a lot of upscaling if they have to take it to another level. And there's so many uses of the coffee us, be it in the agricultural uses, that is organic, for livestock and stuff, be it in the energy, can be used as pellets and used as cooking food, can be used also on the board makings and the other materials can be used in the hardboard industry. So it is our turn now to, as we wait, or as we can start small, to upscale as we wait for the big turnaround when maybe other farmers will be doing coffee.
We wait.
No, we wait. I say we start in a small way as we get.
As we keep going, yeah? Yeah, sometimes waiting can take a while. Yeah. Thank you.
And we also consume about 100. And the remaining excess one, which now is becoming a mess in our industry, is an asset, especially during the transport. Where does this nation can come in? Was easier so that can see other way to reduce that percussion.
So you have a problem.
Yes.
You have excess.
Yes.
But that could actually be an opportunity for other people, right? So I see it as an opportunity, right? Yeah. Any comments on what is just said?
As opportunities, like what he's saying.
Yes.
And also what he's saying.
Yes.
To factor in some of these ideas
Yes.
into the CIPs for possible county adoption
Yes.
in line with agroecology support. I think that some of these resources, if there is a production plant in Nandi or in Kisumu, then there is a market in Vihiga,
Exactly.
a ready market in Vihiga. And then now talking about the Lake region kind of forum, these are actually the tangible results of cooperation and working together within these counties and enriching. I mean, getting resources from the counties.
Yes.
And using this rather than outside which maybe.
Exactly. And I think, as much as I may not understand all the scientific terms, but I feel like what you said really, I'm beginning to think the way Prof was encouraging us to think. Like I've just had you create some wonderful links as we're speaking. So the thing is, how do we make this a reality? Yeah. And here you are, sitting here, all of you. There's a cocktail coming up. It's an opportunity to talk about it, right? So let's not have people running away after the session. Eh? Are you seeing these rich discussions? We can continue there and begin to form analysis and begin to coordinate and cooperate and see how what we can come up with and how it can help. So at the end of the day, it will not just benefit the county, but even you, the people who are driving these things. There's also success at an individual level, right? Yeah. So let's stay back and hear more of that conversation going on. And
138,000 metric tons. Now, you referred to Kibos and Kibos sugar. And at one time I was doing some biochar from Kibos, and it was real task to get the bagasse because there is a lot of competition. Within that area, there is somebody making briquettes. We were doing bagasse, biochar, the agrochemical, then they're also using it for fueling, for drying. Chemelil, on the other hand, is doing only a little bit of using to dry their product. But now much of it is left. Now, biochar production is likely going to gain a lot of acceleration because most of the soil across Rift Valley, part of Western, Central Kenya are acidic. And people are trying to use lime. Lime may not be easy, but biochar is gaining momentum. So if an investor would come in to Chemelil and pitch tent, put a pyrolyzer, then they can be able to utilize that and clear. I remember I was working somewhere and we used to have a problem of sawdust. It was so much. So the cost of transporting, the cost of removing was very high. So I looked at it and said, why can't we use it in the boiler? So we used it in the boiler to dry tea, and within a very short time, we had no sawdust. So likewise, Chemelil can be able to look for an investor. And in this group where we are all investors. Nyalenda and tax, come up with a small pyrolyzer. Go pyrolyze those things. Produce biochar. Then it is, after you get the biochar, get the Nandi team to give you the manure. Or the other group, Sunnywise, you produce that, the water from the fish. Use it to make biofertilizer, and then it is sold. Then it becomes, we will help the farmers at the same time you are making. So it is a win-win situation. As much as Chemelil look at it as could be a threat, but it can be an opportunity for others. So we came here to think about how to utilize those opportunities. It may be a threat, but opportunity in one way. So let's pick it. That we've already highlighted that opportunity, not as a threat, but as an opportunity. How can we move from here? We have so many things for producing. Biochar, the syngas, and then so many other things. Thank you.
Wonderful. So with that, I'd like to close that discussion. And we have another discussion coming up. I don't want us to go into that other discussion with this energy I'm seeing now, eh? Then I find somebody else? How? Okay, get the gist. So let's go. And then walk around, walk. Okay, walk around, and go. Now, this last one. Walk around, a giraffe. A giraffe. Does a giraffe have a voice box?
What is available where? Scale of pale zinapatikana.
What else? A coffee husk, parchment husks.
Yeah, parchment husks. Parchment husks. From the mill. From the mill. Yeah. Parchment husks.
What else?
Kuna mtu wa avocado?
Okay, can we talk about avocado?
Animal manure zenye kufanya kala si sawa na Vihiga huko iko naangalia
This we get from the homesteads, where most of our farmers are mixed farmers, and they rear goat or chicken or cattle. At least the homestead has that one animal. So homesteads are where we get this, and slaughterhouses
That's where we get that resource from. The scale, what we get per day is 1,144 metric tons.
So current status and uses in farm manure, we have partly utilized. When we say partly utilized, it actually means it is not fully used. It will not be able to use in food. And then which practices are currently being used to utilize these resources? So farmyard manure, like animal manure, cow dung, poultry droppings, etc., is used for biogas. To make biogas, we also have organic manure.
What excites me about this is the opportunity to think about the value chains across the different opportunities in the 3 counties. What would a bagasse, rice straw, rice hammock value chain look like? For example, in terms of who might be involved, from the producers to the people who add some value to it. Talk about cogeneration, for example. Could we start moving towards thinking about a green energy strategy across these counties? And that energy, if we just change the processing of bagasse from total thermal combustion to then produce bagasse ash to pyrolysis, we then create syngas, bio-oil, and biochar. You still end up with the energy cogeneration that comes out of syngas. You're just driving the turbines through a different process. And so that's at a large scale. So what would happen in Kisumu County, for example? How many sugar factories could we're talking about 9,000 tons per day. Is that across all the sugar companies? Potentially?
Actually, it may be more.
Yeah.
As we did indicate that some of these, like what is left in the field, they are hardly quantified.
Yes.
What is quantified easily is what goes to the plant. And this goes to the plant minus trash,
yeah,
and without tops.
Yeah.
Because the millers ensure that the moment 12% cane is more than 10, then the farmer is penalized. So you supply clean cane.
Yeah.
So what the factory enjoys mostly is the bagasse, which is about between 35 to 40% on cane.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we think about that and then say, because what I'm trying to think about, and I'm glad that some of the senior county officials are here, is we need to think differently about these solutions. And this calls for some big and serious investments. And there are organizations that are looking for these kinds of opportunities. So let me give you something that will surprise you. The largest biochar manufacturing plant that has been built in the last 3 years is in Quebec, in Canada. And they're importing their raw material from Africa, mostly coming from crop residues. Cocoa pod husks, and they're looking at palm oil waste, etc., etc. And they're also looking at bagasse from sugarcane. And their biggest market is Africa. Okay? But here's where it gets immorally annoying. That 1 ton of carbon, 1 ton of biochar in the compliance carbon market fetches about $200 per ton. Okay, you get $200 per ton of biochar equivalent because of the amount of carbon that it removes. So what the Canadians are investing in is not even the biochar. They're taking the credit. So once they receive the credits from the biochar they produce, the biochar is useless. So they can even ship it to Africa for free. So again, this is one of those incredibly annoying things where Africa is basically building the West. And we are sitting here on these resources. The same thing that we have. If you look at the sugar we produce, from what engineer is saying, some of the work we've done shows that we produce up to 8 million tons of sugarcane a year. If you look at that conversion rate from sugarcane to bagasse to biochar, you're looking at us producing about 1 million tons of biochar per year, times $200 per ton. Do the math. Yeah? That alone is enough to generate about 130 billion Kenya shillings per year from just sugarcane resources. So this is the reason why I'm saying, how do we think differently? We have Nandi and we have Kisumu. What can Nandi and Kisumu do around the sugar factories that are in these neighborhoods? And create something like that, a value proposition that we can now take to the president and say, Mr. President, here's an opportunity. We produce biochar, you get carbon dioxide removal credits at this amount of money. We take the same biochar and we use it as a soil conditioner and even blend it with fertilizer, which then changes the release dynamics of that fertilizer to a slow release material that benefits the plants much better. So this is really how we think about a circular bioeconomy. And how do we start from, and that's the reason why we intentionally put the 3 counties together, to see the excess material that is produced in one county that could come. Now we start to give the Vihiga County guys carbon credits. So while they're not generating the resource, any farmer who adopts these practices that incorporates the use of biochar can now claim carbon credits from sequestration of their soils. So you create an incentive for adoption of these practices. And then the county government can then start to figure out how you then bundle these credits as part of your input subsidy. And you just change the economy, just starts to drive in a different direction. So that exchange is important. Kisumu and Nandi seems to be extremely well endowed because they have the vast land sizes and they have these commercial crops that have enormous waste material. So one of the things that we'll try and do from this exercise is try and figure out what is the biomass deficit for each county against potential crop residues that could backfill that deficit. And then we'll give you the report card and say, this is how badly you're doing. So how do you start to invest to bring the biomass to raise your soil productivity? Then you start to figure out who we need to do business with and what businesses can we create. So if you think about even the raw materials that are now creating methane and all these other noxious gases that exacerbate climate change, you can take that, put it in the soil, improve our soil, grow better food. Because if we even just improved 50% of sugarcane producing areas, we will triple sugarcane production in the country. So that means that the better our soils, the more raw material we get. This thing just starts to spiral like that. More jobs, more money. So as I close, here's one simple example. If we say, so 1 ton of biochar can generate up to $200 in the carbon market right now. How much is 1 ton of sugarcane?
For now, it is 5,400 shillings. Huh?
$200 is what now? $200 is about
by 130.
Yeah, 260,000. 260,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we just say 260,000.
26.
26,000. Yeah,
about 26,000. Against 4,500 or 5,400.
Yeah. So look at that.
Yeah.
So if we just take that and say, why don't we just split the difference with the farmer with bio-oil, with all of its other benefits, and then let's look at the value chains that are produced from that while improving our soils. So this is really, I think, this is the scale that we need to basically change the soils. And then now we start looking at the smaller ones, which now create the micro and small enterprises. Like you look at the toppings and the shreddings from sugarcane, David can give you a long lecture on Kontiki kilns for making this biochar at a household level, the small ones. Not the industrial one, they're now the small one that farmers can now do for their vegetable gardens, etc. So you can see the value chains are really vast, from the very small micro scale to the very large industrial ones that take us to the big carbon markets, for example. So I think we have a real serious opportunity. And what's going to come out from even the ICRA surveys in the field is now to quantify this, but also give you a deficit report on your organic carbon. And then now say, what do you need to produce or who do you need to trade with to bridge that deficit?
I think.
Thank you, Prof.
Allow me to add something.
Yes.
Let me stand for the first time. Based on what the Prof was saying. I remember last year we had a conference in Kisumu, and this was about cogeneration. The potential that exists in cogeneration from the sugar industry. There's a huge potential that exists for cogeneration using gas as the raw material. Today, we are all alive to the fact that the moment the factory starts running, then KPLC is off. And the factory can run for 6 days out of 7 or 13 days out of 14 without using the power.
That is special. Thank you, Harry. I appreciate. I'm very humbled, and thank you for the privilege of working with you. I don't take it for granted. Now add some swag. Okay. Swag. Oh, now put on side.
Hey, Sortuma. Go in the face.
You come to that one. Right?
Hey, Sasa.
Swag.